some of these guys aren't conservative, they're arsonists. Right? Like there's a difference between wanting to have a leaner, smaller, more responsive government and wanting chaos and wanting to tear everything down because you want to take power for yourself, right? And both of those people live together in this administration. Like the ones that are doing this because they want to pay for the tax cuts, and the ones that are doing this because they want to see everything burn. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. I'm delighted to be here with the former chair of the Republican National Committee. He's host of the Michael Steele podcast, distributed right here by the Bulwark. He's co-host of The Weekend on MSNBC. He was Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. It's Michael Steele. How you doing, Chairman?
I'm good, baby boy. How you doing, man?
Well, I mean, time is a flat circle. It was either on Monday's show or Tuesday's show. I was like, this has been the longest 3 weeks of my life. And then I was like, wait a minute. It's only been 2 weeks, actually. So, I'm here. I'm alive. And what? That's about all we can ask for right now, right? How are you doing?
It sucks real hard right now. I'm at a point where I'm frustrated and angry at the same time with the way storylines have played out with no response, and it is galling and mind-numbingly stupid to me that we see the arrogance and disregard of this administration, the leveling up of the menagerie of misfits to be secretaries of fill in the blank and directors of national intelligence. And there doesn't seem to be a counter narrative, let alone counter efforts to expose this bullshit for what it is. And it's frustrating because I feel like, folks like you, myself, and others are out here having, clang the bell, the warning bell, saying, guys, don't do this. Trust me, it's not the price of eggs. Okay. I hear you, but it's not the price of eggs. That's the least of your problems. And here we are now, and then seeing people all of a sudden now, do I have a job? How can he do this? Where does he get bitch, please. We told you this shit was coming. We told you what Project 2025 was. So for me right now, Tim, it's just I'm very frustrated with the way the story in the last 18 or so days has kind of unfolded, and the reaction to it more than anything else.
All right, well, I was going to get into that at the end, but let's just do this right off the top. We'll get to the news next, because you had kind of a viral little exchange with our friend Joe Scarborough a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to be rude. Like, I understand the instinct of some folks, right? Mm-hmm. in the post after, well, you and I weren't shocked, but after the shock that some people went through of Trump winning, right? That to be like, we need to reassess. Like, maybe what we were doing before wasn't right? Like, maybe there needs to be more accommodation, right? Like, I don't, it's not that I don't get that instinct. Like, I get it. I just think that it's wrong. And it's just and fundamentally misunderstands why Trump won and why Democrats failed. And I think that the moment right now, which I think people are coming around to once they start seeing the reality of all this, like is calling for going to the mattresses opposition, doing everything possible to try to, limit, put gunk in the spokes of their tires, right? To try do anything to slow these guys down and create a narrative about how this is going to be a disastrous failed presidency that needed to be avoided, right? And that is the only actually job for people on that are opposed to Trump, whether you're on the left or the pro-democracy right or whatever. Like, that's the job in my view. And I don't. Not everybody's come around to that yet, and I guess you and Joe had a little disagreement on that point.
Yeah. I'm all about grace and all of that stuff, but I know the thing that's in front of me. I know what it is. It has exposed itself time and time again. It tells me over and over again what it is. There is no redemptive feature here. There is no, oh, gee, gosh, I'm sorry. I should be that kind of president as opposed to this kind of president that I am. I should actually not look to blow up the federal government, but as true conservatives has always argued, let's look at how we can make it function better and not overreach, right? And that's not what this has ever been about. It has never been about that. And there are a lot of people who know that now, knew that then. And for me, I just can't go down this merry lane that, oh, now let's just try to understand and be nice, when that's not what this bitch is about. And as I said to about Hakeem Jeffries, that's my boy. You know, I'll roll with Hakeem. I appreciate his leadership. But I'm sorry, when you're handing over the gavel, you don't look at the thing in front of you. They tried to overturn the last election and was in the back room fomenting insurrection and say, we're going to now lay down our swords and pick up our bipartisan plowshares. He's going to take that plowshare and shove it up your ass because that's what they're about. And I wish the hell people would get that shit in their head and understand this thing is not democracy. This thing is not democratic, small d. This thing is not the expression of what the founders wanted. In fact, this thing is what our founders warned us against. And I just, in this moment, am fed up with everybody's bullshit, excuse making, crybabying, wringing of their hands, and not understanding, use the damn system against them. I don't know why the hell Chuck Schumer is the minority leader in the Senate. He shouldn't be, because he's gotten punked every which way from Sunday by the Republicans. You think you're going to get something different in this iteration? John Thune is not Mitch McConnell in many respects, but John Thune is going to do what John Thune wants to do?
No.
Or what Donald Trump wants him to do. So this is, I just don't, Tim, I don't understand why folks continue to pretend that if I say it nicer and if I go visit him and if I plead or cajole or pretend with him, that somehow Donald Trump is going to turn around and go, oh no, I appreciate that. So let me play nice with you.
Yeah, I think part of it is fear. Some people are afraid, right?
Of
and
what?
Like, they figure if they do that, of him, and what they could do. And they're like, okay, well, if I soften the edges of my attacks here, maybe they won't come after me as hard. I'm not telling you. I'm just trying to explain their thinking, man. That's not me.
You're as confused as I am.
All right. I think that's some of it. I think some of it is that, like, Trump does back down every once in a while. So they're like, why not try to get mine on my one little thing? Like, those are all considerations. There were some initial rumblings in the start here that, like, the move was, okay, hey, we're not going to bail them out, but if they want to come to us with a deal and it's like some border funding in California, and then, we keep the government open, we raise the debt ceiling, like, we'll be responsible stewards, and we'll get a few things, we'll get a few pounds of flesh out of them, get a few, little pieces of silver, and we'll cut a deal. Like that. That's what the Hill guys were saying. The reporters were saying, and I'm going, what in the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking? Like, there's no deal. There's no deal. You guys do, like, make them do it. Make them govern. Like, there's no deal to be made. They're shutting down parts of the government illegally right now. And blocking payments to Lutheran services, and you're like, I'm going to work with them on a border security plus fire relief deal? No, F that. And we're starting to see the tone change on that from the Democrats. News out this morning that the Kash Patel hearing is being delayed because of new information that's been coming out about that, what the ways they're trying to weaponize the FBI. So maybe they're starting to get it a little bit, Michael. I don't know.
I don't know. I live in the world, Tim. My political experience that I learned many years ago from the likes of Marion Barry and Joey Eldell and others here growing up in Washington, D.C. is words are meaningless. Dude, show me what you got. Show me what you got. Because I can tell you anything, but if I'm going to, smack you upside the head after the conversation, that tells me everything. Yeah. Right. So I hear we can, maybe we can do this or do that. Just do it. Don't telegraph it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Look, Tim, this is where I come from. For 18 months, Joe Manchin tied up the Biden administration over the filibuster and a whole host of other bullshit. Wouldn't let this bill go through, held up that. Tommy Tuberville, perhaps the dumbest member of the United States Senate, held up over 200 DOD appointments, generals, people we needed out in the field for how long? By himself. And we got Democrats sitting here trying to figure out, I don't know what we can do to stop Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard's appointment. Yes, you do. So don't talk to me about how bad it is. We know how bad it is. Damn it, do something. Even if you slow the roll, if the end outcome is, yes, they get through, at least you slow the roll of the process and you let them put down the marker that this appointment is an abomination. It is bad for the country. We know what Kash Patel is going to do at the FBI. Why do we know that? Because he told us not once, but over a 10-year period.
Yeah. So, Trump is the king of delay. Use the same thing. Look, I said it was the longest 2 weeks ever, but there's only 102 weeks left till they could actually take over the speakership and get some power.
He's not counting.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying that Kash Patel can do a lot less damage in 96 weeks than he can do in 101 weeks. Honestly, like that, it does take time to get gum up the works. All right, there's a story related to this. We got to get into all the Elon news. I could really turn this into an Elon podcast like they're doing. I don't understand. The guy, he tweeted 200 times yesterday. He's running 3 companies and he's tearing apart the entire federal government. There's so many stories about him. It's taking over my entire outline. But I want to get to a couple of the stories. But there was one thing that you tweeted about that I think kind of frames this conversation here. Mm-hmm. And that is this. There was a former NOAA official said this. The strategy here is, we're just going to do it and dare somebody to stop us. And by the time they stop us, we'll have destroyed it. And that, to me, is the most succinct summation of all this Elon stuff we're about to get into. But do you have any thoughts on that big picture?
Tim, that is exactly what the play is. It has always been the play. They couldn't get it in gear in the last term. They had 4 years to sit down and figure out what the mechanisms were. I participated in a number of efforts to sort of war game their strategies during that time and what it potentially would look like. So I'm not surprised at this because along with a number of other folks, we looked at, okay, if Trump comes back, what does he do? And this is exactly what we figured he would do. The problem is that those other institutional responses from the United States Congress to the individual agencies has not played out the way we thought they would, that there would be a more aggressive response to this fact. This fundamentally is the play. We're just going to do it. And I've said this over the years about Donald Trump is something I learned about him for the first time I worked with him back in 2013. He will always, always do what he wants to do until you stop him. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. And the reason he does it, Tim, because he doesn't believe you can stop him. And so that's that's the arrogance that he brings to this. But that arrogance has got to be met with an equal arrogance, which is why I love the president of Mexico. Because she was like, all right, bitch, bring it on. You want to put tariffs on me? Cool. Because Donald Trump didn't think Canada and Mexico would respond the way they did. Because what did he say when he put out that executive order talking about the tariffs? I dare you. And they were like, oh, okay. And to be honest, I think Canada kind of followed the lead of Mexico because she wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And she wasn't playing.
She's been
so
tough.
That's at the core of this is exactly that. We're going to do it until you stop us. And by the time you get to stopping us, we will have already messed it up so badly. Right?
Yeah, and I hate to leave this on the federal workers, but in a lot of places, it's gonna folks are going to need to stand up. And we talked to that's what I talked to Ann about on Tuesday. But look, it's there's this post article this morning. This time, the resistance is unfolding in the courts rather than the streets. You have FBI agents suing over Trump's plan to target the agents that investigated the insurrection. The unions have asked a judge to block the DOJ efforts from accessing personal information. And there have been a couple other, our friends at Protect Democracy and others are working on this. Again, it's a delay rather than a stop tactic, but the combination of the courts, but publicly speaking out is going to have to be what this comes to. And I do think that comes with a little bit of fear for some people, but giving tangible examples
what are you afraid of if you're already
damage being
losing your job? Right? What are you afraid of if you're already losing your job?
Yeah.
If the reality of it is lawsuits are not visuals, right? I can't see your lawsuit. I'm not in court. I don't want to be in court. But when your ass is standing outside of the FBI building, or you've got federal workers who are protesting in local offices, or trying to get into a building that they work in, physically involving themselves in trying to get the nation's attention on what's happening to them. That's an important visual. The next visual is going to come at a very, very profoundly personal level. When your ass tries to access government services that you need, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, etc.
We're seeing it in Virginia. There was already some shutting down of community health centers because they weren't getting payments. Yeah.
What are you going to do then? Because that's when it hits you, because you think, oh, shutting down the government. Yes, just do it. Well, okay. Who's going to process your Social Security payment? Who's going to process the case that you had trying to get services and help for your parents or for your family member? But that office is now shut down. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? You're going to call that member of Congress who's sitting there going, yes, more please? Or who are you going to call? So that becomes the next level of reality here. I agree with you 1,000%. You need to bring a certain physicality, meaning your physical presence, to this discussion so that people can have a face or faces that they see that are fighting not for their own personal situation. That's part of it. But these are public servants. These are men and women who've been serving in these positions throughout every administration, not just Donald Trump's first term, but George Bush's, Bill Clinton's. It's not, we have this sense that the government is, laden with all of these, left-wing ideologues who just want to, be so woke that they do all this crazy stuff. No, that's not the case. The FBI is one of the most conservative organizations in government.
There are a few wokes in there. You're conservative. You're conservative. This is one thing I wanted to ask you about. You're like your little conservative pleasure centers. There's no part of the last 18 days that's tickled anything. That you're like, all right, we do need to shut down. So it was about time we shut down some of these agencies. They were bloated. There's nothing in there for you.
Nope. You know why? Because the way you do that is by leveling up what evidence you have. When you go after, USAID, then put the evidence out there and don't just cherry pick something out of a budget line that's part of a bigger budget. We can all do that. That's no reason to shut down an agency because they spend $30,000 on something you don't like out of a $100 million budget. Okay. I'm very much of the mind, yes, and always argue about looking at how we make government more efficient and work better on behalf of people. For me, that's about response times to problems, wait times on phone calls, duplicative efforts across agencies or within departments. That's not what Project 2025 is about. They don't give a shit about any of that. They just want to eliminate agencies. Let's be clear about why, Tim. They're doing all of this. You know why? Because next month and succeeding months, they've got to deal with the massive, the re-upping of the massive Trump tax cuts. There's no money in the budget to do it. So this is what this is about. They're cleaving these agencies to pay for this tax cut. Trust me on that. This is not about, we want a more efficient government. We're going to shut down the Department of Education. We're getting rid of USAID. We're going to streamline the FBI. All of those dollars have got to go somewhere. How do you perform the investigations that the FBI is currently involved in if you're shutting down half of the field offices? Who's doing that work? Where's that? So the work goes away. The money is freed up. Where's that money going to go now?
No, you're right. I mean, for some of these people, it's paying for the tax cut, and that's going to be a big sticky wicket for them because that's a $4 or $5 trillion price tag that there's no money for. For other of these guys, though, this is kind of why I was interested in your answer because you were sort of talking around this point, which is some of these guys aren't conservative; they're arsonists. Right, like there's a difference between wanting to have a leaner, smaller, more responsive government and wanting chaos and wanting to tear everything down because you want to take power for yourself, right? And both of those people live together in this administration, like the ones that are doing this because they want to pay for the tax cuts, and the ones that are doing this because they want to see everything burn.
Right. So and so that they both agree on blowing it up. Right. But they think on the other side of that, the piece that they want is going to be what they get. And that's not where that's where the fight begins.
We had a couple of new stories this morning I want to get to on that's related to all this.
And real quick, before you do that, I want to go back to the Elon Musk thing and just say this. The other mistake, I think I agree with you about Elon Musk. There's so much there to say about this guy, this immigrant who's taking, people say, well, he's a U.S. citizen. Yeah, but he's still an immigrant, right?
He was illegal for a little while.
This got all of this power that he's been given. I think the strategy has to be, that's great, but Elon Musk is the bright shining object that is a distraction in some extent. Everything Elon Musk is doing has to be tied back to Donald Trump. Yeah. Because this is the great setup. I give you Vivek Ramaswamy. Right? When they started the HB1 visa thing and that whole thing started to blow up, where's Vivek? Anybody seen the brown skin guy? What happened? What happened? I thought we were partners. I thought we were all in this together. They dumped his ass so fast it make your head swim. Mm-hmm. Right? Jettison. This is the problem. Our white base is upset. Right? Let's blame it. Okay, Vivek. And so Vivek's like, okay, I'm going to go run for governor. Okay, baby, you go ahead and do that, boo. The reality of it is you have these pieces that are in place doing what they're doing with the idea that Donald Trump at some point, should it all go sideways, goes, how did that happen? Right? Because he's done it before. And so Elon Musk, everything he's doing, yes, I hate it. And that's because Donald Trump told you to do it. And put it back on Trump. Just don't leave it on Elon alone because, trust me, Republicans and Trump are going to scapegoat him like a dog. when it goes south.
Yeah, and this is related to some of the things that I want to talk about. So just here, a couple of news items this morning. We got CBS Jen Jacobs, who is reporting that some federal employees say they found a program downloaded to their government computers that could be used to sift through their team chats to search for keywords, Treasury computers included. Some staff told CBS they think Musk looking for signs of disloyalty. Washington Post, agents of Musk have gained access to highly restricted government records on millions of federal employees, including Treasury and State Department officials, as part of a broader effort to wrest control over the government's personnel agency. This is very alarming, scary stuff. But to your point, it is framed as a Musk operation, not a Trump operation. And that is showing in the polls. The other item from this morning, Elon Musk approval, disapproved 49%, approved 39%. Doge approval, disapproved 46%, approved 41%. So he's already less popular than Trump. He is already out there taking the arrows. And in these stories that are like straight out of 1984 dystopia, where it's like we're going to be spying on mid-level Treasury officials whose job is just, to ensure that payments get processed, to make sure they haven't said any wrong thoughts about Donald Trump before. That's about Trump.
Right. And why the crap are we polling on an unelected guy? Why? Who the hell cares? He's not an elected official. Why are we polling on Elon Musk? Right? And the reason is because that negative number, that minus 46% or whatever, would otherwise translate to Trump. And that's what they're trying. That's this whole thing is. Now, look, it's a bargain for exchange. Elon Musk is getting exactly what Elon Musk's one side. He don't give a rat's ass if he's upside down in his popularity. He's a billionaire. He's the richest man in the world. What does he care, right? He's got control over the contracting system of the federal government. The Doge isn't looking into his NASA contracts. The Doge is not going to recommend that the government streamline the excesses in those contracts, because trust me, there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in those contracts. But they're not going to carve that out. The man made $400 million just on the day, on Inauguration Day, right? This is all about how he's going to make more money. The bargain for exchange is, I'll do what you need me to do. I just want to be the world's first trillionaire. And all those other motherfuckers sitting behind Trump at that inauguration, they want a piece of that too.
Yep.
So just need to be clear-eyed about what's happening in front of us. So when the whole thing collapses, we know why.
And also, it's like it might be Elon and his 23-year-old incels that are like executing this spy campaign and purge within the federal government, but like they're looking for people who are disloyal to Trump, and like that is what this is about. All right, guys, tired of figuring out what's for dinner night after night, especially on those busy weekdays? Get dinner done the easy way. Thanks to our friends at HelloFresh. This is an issue for me. I don't know about this. This is an issue for you guys in your household, but there's nothing that gets my blood pressure going up more than at 4:45. We eat dinner early. 4:45, 4:50, 5 o'clock. Looking at my husband, saying, "All right, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" Horrible. You need to actually have a plan. And HelloFresh's 15-minute meals are done in just 3 simple steps, so you can eat better this year without all the hassle and without having to worry about what you're going to do every single night. Look, as for me, I like HelloFresh because it's easy meal prep and allows me to do podcast prep and meal prep at the same time. I'm listening to an article or an interview with the guests that I have on the next day, so I can start thinking about what a good topic is going to be, and I can do that and have my mind be half focused on that and only half focused on the quick and easy meal prep that HelloFresh provides. So it is something that is very useful around our house. Highly recommend. And here's the deal. If you sign up now, you can get up to 10 free meals and a free high protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/thebulwark 10FM. 1 item per box with an active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/thebulwark 10FM. And then you can get started with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Anyway, one more. On to another Trump thing. Gaza. It's like sometimes like what do you even fucking do with some of this shit? But Trump, it was the other night.
So, hey folks, let me just tell you, when Tim starts muttering under his breath, it's not good. Trust me, it's not good.
I know. Like I'm like thinking about, it's 8:42 a.m. I probably shouldn't be thinking about a cigarette quite yet. All right. So we have Trump gives the press conference with Bibi, where he seemed to even take Bibi and Susie Wiles off guard based on their facial reactions about the degree of his plans for a casino on the Gaza Strip, the Riviera of the Middle East. Then we go through the same rigmarole we always go through. Next day, Mike Johnson's like, we got to see what the details are on this. I think he's being aspirational. Marco Rubio, this is not part of the plan. There's people in background talking to reporters like, he was a little out of over his skis. Trump sends out a bleat this morning. Don't know if you've seen this. The Gaza Strip would be turned over to the U.S. by Israel at the conclusion of the fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled. The U.S. would slowly and carefully begin the construction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on Earth. Like, we're back to doing the same shit. It's like the people around him are like, let me try to retcon what Trump said to make it seem normal. And Trump's like, nope, actually, I'm going to make racist jokes about the Palestinians and how somebody that I don't like is a Palestinian because that's a slur to me. And I'm dead serious. I want Trump Hotel Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
So what do you make of all that?
So it's all bullshit, and it's typical Trump bullshit because it ain't happening. You know why it's not happening? Because the Saudis have already said it's not happening. And there's not a deal that's going to get cut in which Jordan is going to say, oh, yeah, give us more Palestinians. All right. It's just not happening. But Trump throws it out there, and he throws it out there in such a way that, as you rightly noted, you look at the face of Bibi and Susie Wiles and go, did that shit just happen? Did he say, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that moment when he did the presser in which he said, yeah, well, you can take the bleach and you can inject it in your system. Yeah. And he looked over at, what's her name?
Deborah Birx.
Yeah, Dr. Birx. And she's like putting her head down, go, I know this motherfucker just not said put bleach in your arm, right? That was that moment.
Yeah.
That was the exact same scenario. Here's the deal. Again, you get sucked into the rabbit hole talking about Gaza in the way that Trump wants to do Gaza. Folks, stop for a moment and say to yourself, how does that stabilize the Middle East? How does having Trump Casino on the Gaza Strip and making Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East, how does that stabilize the region? You think Hamas is going to just say, a beach club? Shit, I can get a tan. Really?
What are the rules at that beach club going to be? Are the women? What's the women's dress rules going to be at the Trump Beach Club, Gaza Strip?
I got the burqa that lets the sun rays come to the burkini. I got my burkini.
I don't know, man. I wear my burkini. So this is where maybe my instincts are wrong, and so I want you to tell me why this is wrong. But part of me is like, always the smart people are like, don't take the Trump bait. This is what he wants. He wants to distract you. And part of me is kind of like, I don't know. All this bait works for him because this stuff trickles down and regular people see it. And regular people are like, that don't think about the stuff that deeply. They're like, yeah, it would be cool if America, if we had America Riviera right there on the Gaza Strip. And maybe maybe the answer is trolling back. Like, I don't know, if you're a good Democratic troll like Jared Moskowitz, like maybe shouldn't he be filing a bill today saying, be it resolved. The United States is planning on investing in a new casino and high-rise development in the Gaza Strip, and I want to budget. Here's a $15 billion budget for it, and I would like my Republican colleagues to be my co-sponsor on this bill. Let's see it. Who's going to build it? We're going to be sent contractors there. I don't know. Part of me's like, instead of don't take the bait, maybe bait them back. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad idea.
This is why I love Tim. And this is why Tim was a good comms guy when he was at the RNC. And this is why he's been a great comms guy since. It's because that's exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do. That's why I was just saying in the little bit before about, all right, in the Senate, play hardball. Put these guys in the box where they have to account for the bullshit that's coming out of this man's mouth. Yeah. Yes, I would absolutely sponsor the bill and put it on the floor on the committee and say, okay, that's what he wants to do. I think that's a great idea. And I'm all about even naming it Trump Hotel and Casino Gaza.
Let's do it.
And let's appropriate to get the feasibility studies and all that in place, $250 million. Let's just do that.
And let's take some of the MAGA Americans that suffered in the Biden economy, and that's good work for them. There's construction work. That's real work.
Yeah, it's real work. And then all the other stuff like the relocation of 2 million people, the countries that won't take them, the terrorist organizations that won't go away. All of that shit will just dissipate once we start construction on the Trump Hotel and Casino Gaza.
All right. I want to talk about a couple of an economic matter here. I know that you saw this. Carolyn Leavitt was asked the other day about prices, and I want to take a listen to that.
How long will it take to cycle through and get some of the actual prices that Americans are paying to come down?
Prices at the store and at the grocery pump?
All of the above.
Across the board, sure. Well, the president is doing everything he can, obviously, to reduce the cost of living crisis in this country as quickly as possible. That's why he signed a litany of executive orders across the board. In the first couple of weeks here, he declared a national energy emergency. He committed to cutting 10 regulations for every new one on the book. As you know, working for a Fox Business-related outlet, deregulation and energy independence are huge drivers of reducing inflation in this country.
I love that little, as you know, Fox Business. Shouldn't you be on our side on this one? That question was a little hard.
Right. So I listened to that, and Candy Girl here is she's so sweet and yummy to listen to, so delicious. So I responded back, but on day one, Trump told us, quote, I won on groceries. Very simple word, groceries. We're going to bring those prices way down. End quote. Trump, I want my prices at the grocery pump to go down now. I can't afford.
Why do they keep saying grocery pump?
Right. What the fuck is a grocery? Anyway, at the grocery pump, I can't afford the eggs I need to put into my tank. Because that's what you do. Okay, so this is what you're telling me. So, look, folks, Trump has already told us he doesn't know how he's bringing grocery prices down because he can't. It's too hard. He's now admitted that, but we knew that. You knew that back in November. You knew exactly what you were doing with your vote, and the layup about, oh my God, the price of eggs. You knew it was bullshit then, and it still is. Because if you don't know anything about your own personal market, you know that you adjust. You did. You know how I know you adjusted? Because a lot of y'all asses went on a very nice long vacation during the summer. In the midst of all of the so-called high prices, you took a break and you packed up those eggs and you went with your family someplace nice, and that's okay. And I just think now all of this doublespeak bullshit coming out of this White House about, oh, well, we're cutting this and we did that. There's no plan here. Yeah. There never has been, because there are things that are affecting the price of eggs that have nothing to do with Joe Biden or Donald Trump. There's a little thing called bird flu. little thing where you got to put down 2 million chickens.
Luckily, we'll have RFK Jr. in charge of managing.
Yeah, well, I feel so much better now.
Were you? I mean, obviously you weren't surprised, but like, man, it is really something that RFK and Tulsi are just going down party line votes. Like, it's really something, Michael. Like, if we had a little time machine, if we got to our little DeLorean and went back to October and got around the table with Todd Young and Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, and we're like, Trump is going to win. And he's going to make a Fox host the head of the military, RFK the head of HHS, and Tulsi the head of the National Intelligence Services. And y'all are going to go on along with all of it. I think that these guys would have told us that we had TDS, right? I think they would have been like, no, oh, come on. Like, come on. Either he wouldn't do all of that, or I would oppose some of it, or, and like, here we are. And it's just, it's like such a dog bites man story at this point. Like, I almost get bored mentioning it on the podcast.
Yeah. So you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that moment where Jesus looks at Peter and he goes, dude, before the cock crows 2 times, you're going to deny my ass. And he was like, oh, hell no. I will die for you. What are you talking about? Right? Next thing you know, hey, Peter, you were with him. Nah, I don't even know who he is. Right? That's these Republicans. If you go back in time and you told them this is what you would do, oh no, there's no way in hell. No. But we know now their nature. We know now who they are. They have been exposed for what they are. And just as Christ knew the nature of Peter in that moment, we know their nature. And so I'm not surprised. I said weeks ago that all of these, after the whole thing with our boy from Florida went down, once they got him off the docket, it was clear sailing. They weren't sacrificing anybody else. This is my frustration with Democrats.
I still think Gates would have got through, too, by the way. I told him
you know what, Tim? I'm going to agree with you.
Here's what he said to me. He said to me, I saw him at that Turning Point USA thing I go to every year. And we're in the lobby of the hotel. And I'm like, Matt, and I said, Matt, number one, you made me look like a bad pundit because I said you were getting through. And then you bailed like a little wuss. And he laughed at that. And then we started talking for a little bit, and he starts doing his fake talk and whatever. But I was like, but really, why didn't you push it? And he says to me, he goes, Tim, John Curtis from Utah, the senator that's replaced Romney, he told me privately that he would, it was something like he'd sacrifice his children before he voted to make me the attorney general. And we're sitting right here 2 months later, February 6th, and I'm like, I would put my mortgage on John Curtis voting to confirm Matt Gaetz. Where is John Curtis? John Curtis is nowhere. He hadn't done anything in any of these hearings. All of these guys are tough as nails in their office, tough talk. But when push comes to shove, they all were going to fold. The Gaetz could have gotten through.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the fact I thought that the weakest of all of them was Tulsi Gabbard because she cut the closest to the things that Republicans seemingly still care the most about. Yeah. And that is the whole national security piece. So her narrative in that space was bad for a lot of them. But Donald Trump has already told them, well, if you don't go with her, I'm going to primary you. And once you tell them that, they're like, oh, shit, no, I can't afford to be primary because this is the most important thing I've ever done in my life. And I cannot give this up because this is all about me. F the country. I don't give a shit about the country. She can tell Putin whatever she wants as long as I get reelected and don't have a primary. That's what this crew is about. That's what their leadership is. It is pathetically sad, the level of pussydom that they have created.
We can say that again.
Pardon me?
We can say that again. That's a pussydom. That's a word we can say again now in 2025. It was banned. I don't know if you knew this, but it was banned during the woke Biden era. Yeah. You weren't allowed to say that. Well, we can say it again.
We're in a whole different space now.
Yeah, different words are banned now. Justice. You can't say justice. You can't say equality. Different words are banned.
And God knows if you say DEI, that's like saying the N-word. So just be careful.
All right, I have two. I just wanted to get your just initial impression, hot take, and two more things, and I'll let you go. You were the chairman of a committee. You won some elections back then in that midterm. Yeah. Democrats just elected a new chairman, Ken Martin. I don't know Ken Martin, so he could prove me wrong. I've never met Ken Martin.
Right.
All I know is what I watched during the DNC chairs race, and it felt very milquetoast to me. It felt very limp, and so I hope to be proven wrong on that. But I'm wondering if if somebody sends Ken Martin this little video clip here, I'm wondering what your advice would be to him.
We had Ken Martin on our show the week before the election. The
presidential election or the chair's election? The
chair's election. So 2 weeks ago. And I thought Chairman Wickler out of Wisconsin would be a better fit for this moment, because this moment aligns a lot like it did for me in 2009 after the loss in 06 and 08. A really bad brand for the party. You have a very popular president sitting down on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They have the House, the Senate. And so then how do you now figure out the strategy to begin to claw back the narrative? Look, my hope is that he's the chairman of Minnesota, the Minnesota Party, and apparently is a good tactician in that regard, in that space. He's going to need that, I think, to put in place some tacticals. If he levels up a 50-state strategy, if he starts with branding and messaging at the grassroots, and his first test case will be 2 states that are going to be important this November, Virginia and New Jersey, especially Virginia, which is going to have a very, I think, interesting and hotly contested race for governor between Spanberger and Winsome, Lieutenant Governor Winsome. So you're going to have an opportunity to see how your messaging plays in Northern Virginia, which went slightly red in the last election, and how you can then translate that more broadly across the country. This is not just about, raising a lot of money, and that's important. Your problem isn't money. Your problem is message, and the fact that people don't think you're credible. And so that's going to be an important first test, how you begin to claw back credibility. To be honest, you're not being helped by your members in the House and Senate. So I'm just letting you know.
It's early. Okay. One other thing, just I like to end with some feelings. I was with you, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the election. I forget what the reason was that I was up in New York. And it was before the red light had gone on. We were sitting around the table as you and Simone and me. And I was like, guys, I think we're losing. I was like, I think that we're losing, right? And what do you think? And the two of you and some other people around the table were like, I don't know. I mean, it's close. And the two of you were like, we're losing. Like it's looking bad. And I didn't get a chance to ask you then, like, what were you seeing that made you feel that way? Like, what were you seeing that made you feel that the country, was going a direction where they were not only coming to terms with Trump, but affirming him?
They didn't have a reason to vote for Kamala. They really didn't. I mean, outside of, certain narratives, there was nothing that gravitationally pulled the American people away from it. And it goes back to the joke, we've been talking about the price of eggs and all that. But look, if voters find a reason to stay in a space and it's not a real space, it's not a legitimate space, that there are other things that they need to take into consideration and to move them. If you don't create that conversation, if you don't give them that appreciation that, yes, it is the thing that you're holding on to, the price of eggs, whatever. But these are other things that you need to contextualize. They're going to stay where they are. And when you talk to voters afterwards, they pretty much told you, I didn't have a reason to move. Yeah. And so throughout that campaign, the question is, how do you move the narrative with voters? That's always been the problem for this administration, going back to the very beginning. The Biden administration, yes, I'm sorry, was going back to the very beginning. That's why I alluded to, Joe Manchin and his, tying people up in knots for 18 months over something like the filibuster. And the American people are going, who's Phil? Who's Buster? And what did they do? Right. Why is everybody so mad at them? Right? Not understanding what the fight was about. And the Democrats are fighting over process. Donald Trump is out here just slinging and winging and saying, that's your problem. They're focused on process. I'm just going to go in and blow it all up. And so when people become frustrated with the process, the idea of blowing it all up is really appealing. And no one ever corrected for that. And so, when you're sitting there looking at the numbers, they were telling you one thing, but voters were saying something else on the ground, just as they did in 2016. And I just felt that, all the efforts that folks like you and me in working with Democrats in the democracy space, they still didn't get what the fight was about.
Well, we got 4 more years of fighting. People get it eventually. Once the perp walks, once people start getting perp walked out the Bureau of Investigation, people feel it real good. Okay, hold on. That was supposed to be the last thing. That was too sad. I want to play you one clip. We're going to end with this clip. We got a big football game on Sunday, and our president, who's very mentally sharp, was talking about the game. I want to listen to that.
His quarterback was named Mahomes. He was a great college coach. And I said, how good was he? He said, you don't want to know how good. He made me into a great coach. He's pretty good quarterback, right?
So Donald Trump talking about Tommy Tuberville. One little problem with that, though. You know what the problem is, Chairman Steele? Are you a big college football fan?
No, I'm not a big college.
One little problem. Tommy Tuberville didn't coach Patrick Mahomes ever.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know college football, but I think I knew that.
I was like, he just made it up. He just made up some story about Tommy Tuberville, the dumbest senator, doing Patrick Mahomes. Anyway, it's they're not all firing. It's not all. They're not firing on all cylinders there. They're
not, and people think that's endearing. They just think, well, that's just Trump being Trump. Well, I guess the town idiot is just the town idiot, and everybody just rolls by.
Nice. We get to just make stuff up.
Just make it up.
You can't wait to hear what I'm going to be telling about the boys that I kissed back in the day. I'm going to be naming some big names. I'm just going to be like, oh man. It was, I did it. Just like Tommy Tuberville coached Patrick Mahomes, I kissed Zac Efron.
I had to coach him a little tongue action.
Me and Little Nas X. I was coaching him on that. Anyway, Michael Steele, I'm so happy you're in our little family here. Thanks for taking all the time today.
Nah, man, it's my pleasure, brother, always.
We got much to talk about. All right, that's the chairman. We'll be back tomorrow with somebody a little more liberal than the chairman. He'll take us through the weekend. See y'all then.